So Doge is sitting at 13 cents, 13.7. It has delivered on its double top. It did go down, but the 13 cents is holding very well, which was its previous resistance, is now acting as a support. It is not breaking below its previous resistance, which is a support now, and it is holding on to it. And I think it is doing better in terms of performance than Bitcoin, because Bitcoin did bleed a bit more, but Doge didn't do that. So I would say it's holding very strong. The resistance is still 15 cents. As long as 15 cents doesn't break, I would be leaning towards the full-fledged 13 cent story. And then I will see how it reacts to 13 cents, because the moment it goes to 13.5, that is going to declare it is going to go towards 13. That's an indication. It cannot reverse from there, because then it would have pretty much delivered on a larger double top. So it will be 1 and this will be 2, and then it can start going down to 13 without any problem or questions asked. And then at 13 cents, we can start looking at it and say that whether it can go further down or not, and we will start talking about that stuff later. But at this stage, there's nothing else to look at. Doge has a pretty clean chart. And as we talk about retracements, Doge still hasn't done much of a retracement of this overall rally. It did a bit of retracement here. That was a healthier retracements, but later on there were smaller retracements, nothing big. So even if Doge decides to go down to 13 cents, it's not the end of the world. It's a very small retracement. Doge can afford going down even towards 12 cents without a problem. That will still be a 50% retracement for Doge at 12 cents. So nothing crazy, but 13 cents is pretty bullish. As long as 13 cents continues to hold, you can expect Doge to do really well. But at this stage, we are looking for supports and we are not looking for resistances, because the sentiment of the market has changed, which is towards the pullback, towards the dip or downward direction. It's not towards the upward. So we are more concerned about our supports than resistances, because we know that it cannot break out of resistances until the market turns around. Just like we saw how it was performing for the last 2 weeks. Everything was about the upward, so our concern was only about the upward. Now it is only about the downward. We need to see where Bitcoin stops, and after Bitcoin stops dropping, then the rest of the market will start deciding on stopping as well. One thing to keep in mind is that some coins that don't bleed initially in the start, they start bleeding later. Just because Doge is holding strong doesn't mean it will not bleed later. The overall confidence of investors, it will start getting diluted, and then all of a sudden it will start bleeding towards 13 cents with extreme comfort. Right now they are bullish and they're holding strong just because Bitcoin bleeding is not that strong. It went to $67,000 or $100 below it. There wasn't much of drop, and that is from 69,700 or 500 I think. So not that big of a drop. So when Doge investors are looking at it, they are thinking, it's still okay. But the moment you see Bitcoin on 65, that is where the Doge investors will start freaking out as well, and then the bleeding of Doge will be way heavier than you are seeing right now. Then Doge will remember it is an altcoin and it needs to bleed double in percentages than Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is bleeding 5%, Doge will bleed 10% or more. So be on the safe side. Don't take into positions until you have clarity. That's always the rule. Take entries from support. Take shorts from resistances.